You that Peacemaker guy? Evil supervillain?
Not a supervillain, that's a misconception. I'm a superhero.
We only kill bad people. Usually.
Eagly is your pet eagle.
Let's just...
Fine, fuck.
Are you always gonna be this difficult?
Yep.
You heard it up top. Salute the flag, because we are talking about one diehard patriot today. A badass to meet all badasses, because we're talking motherfucking Peacemaker on motherfucking Normies Like Us with your hosts, Vigilante.
Oh, I got swooped, so I guess I'll be, oh no, how about...
Is Mike going to go into Vigilante, if I may ask real quick?
Well, I was going to be Michaelanti, but I'll be Mike DeBio.
Mern? I'll say it was right there.
Man.
Jodo.
Like Judo Man,
Oh,
just throwing it in there.
Very good.
Judo
I was
Man.
going to be Jacob Master.
Okay, well, Thimble's
Judo
still out
Master.
there.
We all got swooped.
There we go.
Who wants to grab that? Eagly's
Call
swooping
me Prince
everybody, I
Charming.
guess. Yeah.
Jokily.
Not for the reasons you think.
Flamin' Hot Cheeto here. So, yeah, Peacemaker. We did it. We assembled a team just about as efficiently as Mern did. So good job,
I
everybody.
would say.
But yeah, HBO, we talked Suicide Squad at one point, the James Gunn Suicide Squad. I think overall we enjoyed it. Rest in peace, Rick Flag. And now we got a show about the Peacemaker, that asshole. Who wanted this, right? But it turns out it's actually pretty good. And we're going to talk all about the episodes that have come out to this point. Normies Like Us. But yeah, do you guys have any sense of Peacemaker prior to Suicide Squad? Because I did not as a big normie. Joe, do you ever come across this character?
Not by name. I think he's been in the background of some big events that I've read, like in like the early 2000s, but he was just kind of like in the background. I was not familiar at all pre the Suicide Squad.
Seems like James Gunn did a good job of pulling deep cuts out and then using them quite effectively. You know, that Harley Quinn that no one's heard of. You know, good job, James Gunn. But
real underground characters.
Yeah. But I mean, he's definitely more obscure than King Shark or Polka Dot Man, even, I guess we would say, yeah?
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I think I really want to taste it. So how about we just jump right in and we'll just start talking with spoilers. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. The season up to this point, Peacemaker. Normies Like Us.
I like it. It just makes me feel like if John Cena can get away with dancing like that, so can I. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
If that's all you can do, that's fine. That's all John Cena can do.
Yeah, it's enough, you know. Alan Tudyk's wife with the choreography, shout out, you know, collaborator of James Gunn, but apparently he didn't know that it was his wife when he hired her. It was just off of her work, so weird stuff. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, we just had the song fade in. If you're on the video version, who knows what you got without getting copyright strike. But yeah, we're back, right, Colin? Peacemaker time.
We are a hell of an intro, and we're talking about a hell of an intro. James Gunn's
That's
Peacemaker, the first DCU television series, quote unquote, an HBO Max original. And Jacob, this is something you just cannot skip this fucking intro.
No, I
Mm-mm.
never skip it. It might be the greatest TV intro ever made. You know?
Yeah.
It's just the entire cast just doing this dance routine completely straight-faced. And it's amazing. I can't look away. I have to watch it every time. And it's great.
Yeah, and the song is incredible. I find myself humming it, you know, and I just think about the theme song at least 3 or 4 times a day, like that opening number, and you can never skip it. It's absolutely incredible. So right off the bat, it sets the tone, I guess. But yeah, you thought it was Cheers is the greatest theme song ever. Now it's this. Move on.
Well, yeah,
It's
but
wigwam time,
beyond
baby.
that, it's wigwam time. Do you really want to taste it? Beyond that, again, I'm somebody who just won't shut up about how smart I fucking think James Gunn is. This is his first swing at television, and he's coming from the world of Marvel, where they do those post-cred scenes in an effort to keep you around to watch all the people who made it, right, with a reward. Peacemaker itself, this TV show, has post-cred scenes that are basically extended comedy gags if you stick around, right? But super genius style, he's also going, wait, you know, when I watch Netflix and that little skip ad thing comes up, fuck you. I know the guy who makes the title sequence. That's kind of a middle finger to that guy. Don't fucking skip what anybody's put work into. What could I do to fucking make it so people stick around? And he figured it out.
Yeah.
Have your whole cast just do this dance routine.
Like the whole cat. Like if you have a line on this show, you are in the background at one point doing a very weird dance.
Yeah,
right.
It's captivating. But yeah, those little they're almost like blooper outtakes. We had the extended jokes. It's start to finish. Great stuff. And I guess, setup-wise, obviously we mentioned Suicide Squad. This is following the events of Suicide Squad. Project Starfish, Rick Flag, who made fun of him for having a toilet helmet, gets killed by a toilet. Oh, the irony.
Peacemaker.
Make a piece of this toilet go into your heart, you know what I mean? So that's where we're at now. He is working for the government again to essentially avoid going to prison for that. And that's the setup of the show, and it's teaming up with some of the handlers, essentially, who were on Project Starfish, as we saw in that post-credits. And that's kind of where we kick off. And we just got Wacky Adventures of Peacemaker and Friends, ?
That's right.
Yeah.
And we know, Amanda Waller, leader of the Suicide Squad, not afraid to, get people in there and get dirty. And then, it's her daughter in the team now. So that's an interesting element as well.
Yeah, so what's the team? Does anyone want to run down, Joe? You think you could run down our team members here?
Oh, I might do it terribly with names, Colin. If you want to
Anonymous.
Yeah.
Totally. So we got our guy. Well, we got Diebeard. Well, we got John Cena. Let's start there. We start with our wrestler.
John
we start
Cena,
with Christopher Smith as Peacemaker, who is, what do you guys think? Probably arrested for murder? Probably did he kill Kite Man after his one stint at being a hero? And is that why we see him in Belle Reve in Suicide Squad?
Wouldn't be too surprised.
Could be.
And then we rounded out with, we've got Amelia Harcourt, who was, of course, Amanda Waller's right-hand woman, played by James Gunn's beau, his real-life girlfriend. And then we've got Steve Agee playing Johnny Economos, who was the warden of Belle Reve, but now seems to be just sort of an all-purpose kind of catch-all tech. We've got Danielle Brooks as Lieto Adebayo, who, as Jacob mentioned, is the new recruit, but actually the secret daughter of Amanda Waller. And then to round it out, we've got the team lead, and that is Chukwudi Adeo playing Myrn, Agent Myrn, an original character, I guess, Joe, somebody I'm not familiar with.
Yeah,
I like Adebayo because she has the same name as NBA player Bam Adebayo, so I like that.
Oh, you like basketball? Yeah, there's a lot of through lines with the characteristics of both the fictional character and the basketball player. Yeah, I like her because it is a secret daughter, and then there's moments where she's kind of trying to be friends with Peacemaker. He's a little bit of an outcast in that first episode. Doesn't fit in. He's kind of a jerk. He wears his costume to the restaurant. People are kind of picking on him. And then she tries to kind of befriend him, but we're unsure if that's genuine or if there's ulterior motives from her mother. And it's setting up some interesting drama, but some of it feels really heartfelt. And I do like Adebayo and John Cena's relationship because his father is the White Dragon, basically a racist supervillain. So pairing the son, Robert Patrick, who does a great job in that role, pairing the son of that character who's been, even the janitor saying, "Oh, you're that racist superhero," and he's like, "No, I'm not." So he kind of gets thrown in the apple not far from the tree talk. So to pair him with, a gay black woman is an interesting setup for personal growth for him and interesting stuff. So it's a good play, I think.
And she's sort of also the audience, POV character where she's coming into the team. She hasn't done this Black Ops stuff before. And like you said, she might have ulterior motives with her mother, Amanda Waller, giving her, side missions, let's say. So who knows what's going to happen. We're only 5 episodes in out of the 8 episodes, right? Mm-hmm. But you know what I love about this show, too, is just the cliffhangers. A couple of these episodes have just ended and you're like, oh, man, that's a great cliffhanger. I wonder what's going to happen next. Can't wait to watch the next episode.
And you have to watch weekly. They don't dump it all at once. But Joe.
Right.
Like we talked about in Spider-Man No Way Home, I think we're entering a new era of comic book content because this feels like James Gunn wanted to do a DC Black Label story, which is their, like mature books. That's where, Batman like Hong Dong in a book called Damned. So it's like, he wanted to do like a Peacemaker story, and this was his avenue to do it. So like, I'm all for the expansion of what types of stories you can tell. And like, even some of like the references that they make in this are so confusing to me, because there's so many like cuts to like the DC universe as a whole. Like, Colin, is Batmite now canon? Like, did Ben Affleck meet Batmite in this universe? Is that how that worked?
And there is that outrage, Joe, where people are like, Batfleck's the most serious person ever. He would never fight Batmite. But by the end of this, Joe, I want you to think. I want to hear your thoughts on, of these characters we've just been introduced to through words or their names in this extended universe. Who would you have play Batmite? Who would you have play Matter Eater Lad? Who would you have play fucking who else have they thrown out there?
Those are the two big ones that stick out to me. And like, like even just referencing like Superman, referencing Batman, like making it like this whole universe. Aquaman, like,
Well, Joe, this is what I really like about the show is it's essentially the DC's answer to WandaVision and Hawkeye and all those Marvel shows, but they can do something that Marvel can't or won't do, and that's lean into the edgy R-rated type stuff, which you get James Gunn. I loved his Guardians of the Galaxy movies, some of my favorite Marvel movies, but he can really stretch his legs creatively when he can work in that more edgy material, Slither, that kind of thing. So I love that he's getting back to that with these DC things. So I'm a huge fan.
And I agree.
Oh yeah, and it's working. Like, it's running on all cylinders. I haven't talked to anyone who's watching the show that dislikes it, but I do think there is like a perception of what it is. You know what I mean? Like, it comes off like a real dude bro-y show, and
it's
I feel
a lot
like that's
better than
a pill to swallow.
Yeah, I like it a lot better than I even expected to, and I expect to enjoy it, but it's better than I expected. And just the fact that you can have like these violent graphic scenes, and then in the next scene they're talking about Superman's shit fetish or something. It's just like something that Marvel would never do.
Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah.
And it's fun seeing James Gunn, that kind of from the trauma roots, and like seeing what that becomes when it is dealing with a mainstream major property, and how he's able to kind of balance that kind of irreverent tone. But there's a heart to this thing too. Joe said it's a dude bro, like, on its surface. But when you really do watch it, there's some genuine emotion amongst the violence and crass jokes. There's a heartbeat to it, and I think that's what surprised me the most. And I was maybe one of the most skeptical on it. I'm like, I don't really care about this, but that first episode pulled me in. I mean, Colin, what's your general impression?
Well, and Mike, even just to comment on what you're saying, when you're talking about auteurism, right? I want to ask you guys a question. To me, it feels like the longer a person's career goes on, eventually you get criticized for your auteurism, which is putting to film yourself. I'm already seeing some backlash to Peacemaker, and I agree that everybody seems to really be loving it, but just to the style that James Gunn brings of, well, what's with all the juvenile jokes? And hold on, there's needle drops in this? Oh, this guy must like music or something. Where you go, yeah, but that's, again, he is expressing himself fully in the medium he wants to. And again, I think commenting and saying something higher than you would perceive.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I mean, even just looking at Peacemaker himself, right? On his surface, dude bro, tough dude. He's literally one of the most jacked humans on Earth, one of the most alpha of males. They establish on the show he has a large penis, and yet he still doesn't fit in, and he feels lesser than, and his dad is a huge asshole to him. So, like, despite being the most alphaist of alpha, he fucking is sad and doesn't belong, right? And, like, what a way to flip a character like that and make you really, like, kind of sympathize with him, especially when he killed Rick Flag.
Yeah, that's another thing I really like about the show, is that Peacemaker as a character is more complex than you originally think. So you see him as sort of a villain in Suicide Squad, but what I also liked about his portrayal in Suicide Squad, before his kind of villain turn, he just seems like a really likable, like, fun guy. Then he does what he has to because he's taking orders from Amanda Waller, and he sees that as a necessary thing he has to
Jacob?
do.
He is
Yeah.
not doing what he has to in that movie because of that. He's doing it because of what he says up top, because he will kill any woman, man, or child in the name
Right.
of peace. He is doing what he 100% believes is right. And we've all had that moment where our core values are shaken, where you're like, oh, wait, my whole life is just like nothing. And to see a character have like an existential crisis in a TV show when he dresses up with a chrome helmet and shoots people, that's strange.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is triggered by Rick Flag saying Peacemaker, what a joke, as his death
Right.
throw. You know what I mean? And like that stuck with him, and he's reflecting on it. And then, yeah,
And,
it's an interesting starting point.
He gets into his, the way he was raised, his childhood, trauma of certain events. He was involved, he had a brother, and he was involved in the death of his brother accidentally. Obviously, his father, the way his father raised him was really fucked up, and he has to kind of come to terms with that. So he's not obviously a perfect person, but he is trying to learn and become a better person in the show.
Yeah.
I think one of the places where I think it really does well is when you have a show like this where you're introduced to a character in a movie and then they're going to spin off, or even if you're introduced to him in another TV show. When you meet the character in the TV show, it's like they didn't learn the lessons that they had learned in the movie. You know what I mean? Like if you look at like, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like the setup for that show doesn't really make a lot of sense when you think about like the lessons that Sam had supposedly already learned, but we need to like watch him learn it again for the purpose of the show. I feel like this did a good job of having a lesson learned, and if you saw that, great, but also like introducing the character at a point where it's a different set of flaws that we're exploring now. Like it's not the same flaws that he had in the movie, just rehashing it. I think that's great, but like I do think there's some validity to the criticisms of like James Gunn style, because Peacemaker is Rocket Raccoon. Like they're the same. That is the story that he just tells over and over again with like classic rock. So
but that's the style that he sort of excels at. Would I want every DC property to have the same tone? No, but I think it works for this show in particular, and for the Suicide Squad movie. But if you have something like Superman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, those aren't going to all have the same tone, but they're still in the same universe.
What's interesting about the edginess, though, of James Gunn is it kind of almost fits right into this release of Snyder Cut demographic, kind of,
right?
So it's like you have
that's
those
always
fans that like the dark shit, and this kind of
switch.
provides it. Yeah,
and that's what DC's been trying to do for years. Like they want to be the edgy, dark alternative to Marvel, basically, to varying degrees of success over the last couple of years, but.
You don't have to be edgy and shitty, though. You can be edgy and have a heart, and that's what this is trying, I think. But yeah,
would it shock you to find out that like you're wrong from that community's perspective? Because the Snyder Cut community hates this. Wow. They despise this. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Wow.
This is stupid. This is silly. This is not what our thing is. Our thing is serious and gritty. Yeah, like I saw someone, I shit you not, I laughed so hard at this. I either put it in the Normies chat or I sent it to Colin. I laughed so fucking hard at this. It was a tweet that took remember the batshit opening of Batman vs Superman where Bruce Wayne's like, what falls is fallen and what falls is super fallen, diamond absolute. Yeah. It takes that quote and then it has like a gif of it takes that quote and then had, the Peacemaker opening side by side with some Snyder Cut shot. And like the point they were making is like, the Marvel bro came in and it's not serious no more, and I hate it.
That's great.
Well, I'm sorry that you guys have
that's
bad.
A certain
they hate it.
Fans, but those are probably the same people that are with a lot of the same controversies with He-Man and that kind of thing. It's the same people. We don't have to dwell on them.
Yeah, it's funny though, because I would think when I'm looking at they're casting a wide net. They can get everybody. They can get the Marvel.
Yeah, no,
people.
I had to throw it out there because you were like, look, it's
me.
edgy. It's gonna make them happy. No, they hate it.
Nothing makes them
happy. Edgy, but it's goofy, and they hate that it's goofy.
Right.
Thanks for
we talked about like every character on the show except what I think is the ultimate standout, which is Vigilante. Vigilante is the only character on this show that we know by name so far that I was aware of and familiar with before.
Yes.
So he's like a low level, I would say like D-lister vigilante who works in Gotham sometimes. And I think he was on the Arrow show, if I'm not
He
I
was,
think he
Joe.
was done,
No,
yeah.
I was introduced to him about 4 years ago. Now, this is Freddie Stroma, who plays him in Peacemaker, an actor from Game of Thrones for, I guess, one small stint.
He's like the
He was in
brother
Harry
of,
Potter.
Yeah.
He was
played
McLagan.
I looked it up. I was
Harry
like, that's
Potter.
nobody and nothing. That it
I don't
drove me
recognize him
crazy.
from anything,
That's
but
what
I
it drove me
adore him,
for.
man. I think he's
Yeah.
so great in this role.
Well,
Yeah,
here,
he-
let me ask you this, Joe.
Hmm.
How much of the of his and Peacemaker's backstory is like from the comics accurate, and how much is like James Gunn kind of embellishing things or making things more like? Is he really going around just killing people for like any kind of
Like
minor
Casey Jones
crime?
style.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Vigilante. So let me ask you this, backstory wise. Now, who does this sound like? Guy with a gun. Family killed by mobsters, wiped out, decides to pick up a gun and start killing anybody for anything. Does that sound like a popular Marvel
Punisher?
character? Maybe. Interesting.
Oh,
Yeah, so he's
wow.
basically DC's Punisher.
He's
is what you're
DC's
saying, right?
Punisher. But
See, you
beyond
think of
that,
him as that. I think of him as DC's Night Thrasher, which was, like another like teenage level, like they were contemporaries of like Dick Grayson. So think about like that.
Yeah.
Like that's like the age that they're supposed to be. Is like Titans bad guys is where I would have expected someone like Vigilante to show up. But getting him in this, man. Oof.
Yeah.
But he's just murdering people for like jaywalking and shit
Well,
in the comics.
he loses his mind, and Batman has to come to Gotham and be like, "Stop!
Yeah.
I will kill you next if you can do this." But let me just say this real quick. So, but Joe, the point is, there are a million other DC characters to relate him to. Really, for Marvel, it's just the Punisher. There's like Blade, kind of, but it's a trope of our least favorite superhero. I would gladly say for you, or speak for both of us, and say the guy with a gun, right? DC has, even though they're villains, Deadshot. Okay. Fuck. Who else? A million other
Deathstroke.
people.
Marvel has Deadpool
Vigilante,
too. if you count him.
Deathstroke. Marvel has Deadpool,
Deathstroke,
Jacob. That
yeah.
I would absolutely count that.
Yeah, but
just these
Deathstroke,
endless guys with the guns who are like, and if one of us goes down, in
Manhunter,
fact,
yeah.
I will be the next person who just rises up. And what is my power? That I am crazy. And
Right.
look,
I feel like
have
that's half the
hated-
Suicide Squad in most
Yeah,
things.
and that
Just
is
guys with
Jacob,
guns.
and I have hated that
Bloodshot.
trope, and that's
Yeah.
one thing I have held against DC, where I'm like, you've got too many guys who just use guns or whatever. Now, in the world we exist in, where it is actually scarier a million times over, I look at that and I can so easily relate to and see the universe of,
Oh, yeah.
imagine everything that we've been through. And now there's a guy named Superman in our world who is indestructible and can do anything. You
He's
don't
an
think
alien.
some guy who went to the January 6th Capitol riot would just be like, fuck it, I'm Peacemaker now. I go around and I kill whoever I want, and this is my superpower. And if you disagree with me, I will fucking blow your brains out. And it's like, okay, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
100%,
You're
yeah.
a superhero.
Well, the way
Weirdly.
his father was raised him is so plausible, like in
Yes!
the current political climate of America. 100%.
Yeah.
So, Colin, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is where James Gunn has taken some liberties, like he's done in the past, and kind of combined some different comic book elements. So, White Dragon is a comic villain, primarily of people like Green Arrow. I think he had like some mashups with like Dr. Fate and Zatanna, kind of like not superstar talent. And he was the White Dragon, Ku Klux Klan member, full-on bad guy. But Peacemaker was not his son. That's just kind of like putting two different stories together.
No,
I think
again-
it works.
History of Peacemaker. He was a Charlton comic, so that's one of those things like where we were talking about with like Shazam and Fawcett back when we did that thing where DC, like modern video game companies, was just snatching people
Nice
up left
reference.
and right and being like, "You're fucking mine now, Peacemaker," and you're like, "Oh, okay."
Yep.
And
It's
it was all
Captain
World
America
War
in
II
timely
time.
comics.
Exactly. And so World War II era, Peacemaker was running around doing that shit. They can't have that now because his dad was like a Nazi named like Wolfgang von Straushausen, and you're like, well, no, that just wouldn't make any sense. It's 2022, so
Right. No, and I think it's a good
Right.
fit. And it does, Colin, feel like I could almost see these characters like Peacemaker and Vigilante in our world, and that's pretty wild. I'm still going to stick with the Casey Jones for Vigilante.
Yeah.
Well,
old school
Mike,
comic Casey
Phoenix Jones. Phoenix Jones was the real life superhero who started that
Yeah.
whole movement. Joe, don't you think you'd read on the news Phoenix Jones killed by Vigilante? And you'd be
Yeah,
like,
I would
oh
not
my
be surprised at all. I mean, I remember like there was a time period where this was, shortly after Kick-Ass where we were seeing a lot of this. And I think that's, to bring it back to the show, like one thing I love is Vigilante's costume to me is like,
one of my
it's
favorites.
pulled basically directly out of the comics. And it just makes me think like, holy shit, like Nightwing would look so good in this universe. Like that's the thing I keep saying when I see like these types of characters where it's like, okay, like I hope if we do get a season 2, bring like Anarchy or someone like that in. Like I would love to see some other characters on the same level, but you can walk it closer and closer to some of the big names, I think.
Well, Joe, you mentioned Kick-Ass, and I think there's been a lot of properties. It's sort of a recent trend as well, kind of dealing with the same edgy, darker, politically oriented sometimes material. We had The Boys. We had that animated show on Amazon. Invincible. Great show. And then you have James Gunn himself, who made a little movie called Super, right? In the year 2010, which is very similar to Kick-Ass, basically, with Dwight from The Office, Rainn Wilson.
Yeah, that's right.
And that kind of dealt with a vigilante who kind of takes things into his own hands. So it's very similar material there.
He had some warm up for it too.
Yeah,
the tone
so
they're
definitely
balancing is great.
Yeah,
I would argue that's darker than this though. This is like, because at its core, it is a positive show. Like, it really is. Like it hits all the beats. It knows exactly what he's doing because he's a master at it.
And friendship. And that's the thing too. We were talking about how he doesn't fit in, and everybody's getting an arc. Harcourt's a little, rough and kind of short and cold, and then she starts to warm up near the end, and he has an issue with Economos. He's always talks shit to Econ. It's about a family kind of forming in this unit, and
it's a family of misfits. They're all kind of misfits or outcasts in their own way, but they come together, family style.
It literally is a family show with bodies exploding and dance numbers.
And I like it a lot, but it also literally is Guardians of the Galaxy, a found family that has dance numbers.
That's what that's what
poetry,
James Gunn does. He's not. I don't think he's the most versatile. Like you said, he's an auteur. He knows what he's good at, and he kind of hits the same themes in a lot of his works. But it works for me. Guardians are some of my favorite Marvel movies. The Suicide Squad is probably my favorite DC EU movie, 100%. Right? And now this show, I think he's knocking it out of the park.
Real quick, just to talk about the writing standpoint, because I went on and on about how The Suicide Squad, I think, is past 5 years, maybe 10, the best modern screenplay that's ever been written. I will defend that. Go back and listen to that episode. It's about something. It's about how imperialism is the worst, and America needs to stop trying to control things. Guess what, guys? We're hitting that golden triangle again. Theme, plot, dialogue, writing. Quote unquote, the last one. When you're hitting those three, you're nailing it, okay? Now, I want everyone to understand the power that this man has of what he has willed into the universe. Because what we keep forgetting talking about is he only has this opportunity. Because what's that guy's name? Robert Cernovich, the right-wing.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember his name.
Something Cernovich, but basically, his cancellation, you say, that was completely orchestrated by these right-wing sort of provocateurs. Because of James Gunn's political views.
Is also going to be
because of his outspoken liberalism.
Yeah.
And now, Jacob, we have a character on mainstream TV that's extremely popular who violently uses the Second Amendment, reiterates rhetoric that he hears on Facebook as truth. He's constantly talking about the deep state, the shadow government, who's really in charge, how you shouldn't trust those with authority and power. I should be autonomous and be allowed to do whatever I want. It's this huge criticism on that. And he's paired with a left-wing, gay, black young woman who
never
is
killed
making
anybody.
him question those beliefs. He's never killed anybody. And making the demographic of people who aren't the full-on Augie, his father, who are saying, white power and things like that, but the children that we know that is our generation of people who go to Thanksgiving and go, yeah, my dad says that stuff, but he's crazy, but I also vote with everything he says, and I also agree that gun rights are the most important thing in the world. And you you're just as bad.
Colin, if you think about it, I mean, part of his arc of character growth in this is just learning that his father is as bad as he actually is. Because basically multiple characters have to tell him, oh, your dad's like super racist.
And
like
the power of John Cena's acting, that literally he can have those sit-down scenes with Robert Patrick, an actor I think we all really like from that era, who says, I should have slit your throat the second you were born. And he's so good, he can just go, no. And just, he does the shake off of, I didn't hear that. He's heard that his whole life and just had to go, Dad doesn't mean that. Just the throwaway of, no, that's not true.
Seeing a giant man be a child. It's crazy.
Well, yes.
Yeah,
I think the real nuance,
performance.
It is. Like the real nuance of it is it's not that he has to learn that his dad is wrong. It's that he has to accept it. Like it has nothing to do with what he knows, and like he knows objectively that it's wrong. Like when she's like, your dad does not think that people with my skin color deserve rights. And he says, that's fucked up. Like, that is his response. Like, I understand.
But it also
I get
shows that
it's accepting it.
Right, but it shows the way he was raised. To him, that was normal for a long time as a kid. So that kind of gets ingrained in you. Not to excuse that kind of behavior, but you kind of see, like, how people come to, believe that. And they can either reject, what they're...
It's brainwashing. It's almost like other characters on this show have literal bugs in their head that are controlling them too. Again, what James Gunn wants to explore on this, it's just like, baby, let me ride that wave. You're just crushing it.
Yeah.
Also,
it is covering a lot of similar ground to The Boys, but I think they both do it well from different angles.
This just has it's hitting everything right, because any criticism that I give James Gunn's directing skills of being like one note, Colin, I agree. Like he's one of the best writers working today. Like you just no one crafts a scene like him. No one has that emotional turn as well as he does. And he can do the same exact thing 3 different times, and it doesn't feel like it because each one is written with such a sophistication and understanding of the characters that he's playing with.
Yeah, right. Yeah, 100%. And I think Jacob was alluding to, too, the performances he can get out of these people because the material is so strong. Like, this is, in my opinion, John Cena's best role.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think the entire, as good as James Gunn is, I think the entire emotional heart of the show relies on the performance of John Cena. And, I watched the first 4 episodes, and I was like, man, I think John Cena should win an Emmy or something. Like, he's just killing this role. And I think he was sort of miscast as just like a straight-laced action star when he has, the comedic chops and the charisma that he has, and he's willing to be sort of self-effacing about himself, about his body, his weirdly muscular shaped body. He's not afraid to show it off. He's not ashamed. And he's just nailing it. I think he's nailing the emotion. He's nailing the comedy. And he's just been great.
That crazy Jack body and the the puppy dog eyes, like it's a combo that can't be fucking beat. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at like what the show is doing as a whole, right? So there's some sort of alien invasion that is different from other aliens that we have seen so far. This is not Starro. But Colin, did you catch? There was a caterpillar at one point that we kind of get a close up on. There is that tease from the end of Shazam where you have what's his name? I can't remember.
I almost said Mr. Mixoplex.
It's Professor something, right?
I can't
He's a little sentient caterpillar who's like a bad guy. So like I could see this actually tying to bigger
Mr.
stuff.
Mind. Sorry.
Yes, that's right. And just the universe they're building, or like the way they're filling out these little corners. I can't wait to see what happens because we have Batgirl coming up soon, and that has Brendan Fraser as Firefly. Is Brendan Fraser's Firefly gonna know John Cena's Peacemaker? Because I would love to see those two hang out at a place like the Bar with No Name, like which I'm sure exists in the DCEU somewhere.
Well, they had a gorilla show up, and for a moment I was like, "Wait, is that Gorilla Grodd? What's going on here?"
Same thing.
I was thinking that
what
too.
What the fuck?
Yeah, they got the gorillas going. There's also, you know, another character we haven't mentioned who does love Peacemaker for Peacemaker, and that's Eagly. How can we forget Eagly?
Eagly.
One of the good little sidekicks.
Mike, I actually like that Eagly likes him. It would be
Yeah.
so easy to make the joke that he's obsessed with the bird and it's constantly attacking him. But that somber episode 5 opening where he's making the hangover cure, the bird goes and gets food for him because he's worried he's not like eating enough.
Brings
He's
him
like,
a dead animal.
It's a good gesture. It's fine. I'm not gonna eat it.
You
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
It says
Yeah,
that
he
means a
loves
lot to
Eagly.
me, but I'm not
I
gonna.
really want to know how they shoot that. Like, is the eagle
great.
CGI?
He said it's
Or
like
what's going
a
on there?
yellow. It's like a green. He said it's a fucking piece of wood. What was that called? A dowel. It's a dowel with a
It's a
green tip
huge
on it.
dowel
That's what
thing.
John Cena said.
I'm shocked it's not
that's
his
what he's
brother in a
acting
bird
against.
suit. You know?
One
It's Weasel.
true. 1 hour of the first day, they had a real eagle on set, and James Gunn said the second I realized the bird wasn't into it, we were like, nope. So
Yeah. I
Computer
gotta say,
bird.
for like a TV show, like
It looks
the
good.
effects are pretty good. Like it
Yeah.
looks pretty
the
realistic.
gorilla looked good.
Yeah.
The explosion of a body looked good. Like the effects are actually really impressive. Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm definitely
And I mean, if you again go watch Slither, an old James Gunn movie, if you want to see some great gross out effects, yeah, he's great at that as well.
Yeah, it's just for me the surprise show of the year. You know, like for how good it starts and then just how good it continues to be. And like as I'm watching it, it just brings me so much joy. And I just don't want it to end. So every time the episode, then you have to wait a week. We mentioned that in the beginning, like it gives you time to really marinate on it, and it's like I just can't wait to see where it goes, you know, and hopefully it finishes strong for season 2. But I've been completely surprised by it. I mean, getting hugged by an eagle, you got Vigilante, you got all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
It's not Project Butterfly. What, they're butterflies? No. And then like 3 episodes later, oh, no, they are butterflies.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what's going on because we find out, spoiler alert, the head of the task force or whatever
Mern.
is a butterfly, right? But he's having them kill butterflies. So is he like a butterfly that's trying to kill other butterflies?
Or did
We
he
don't
get
know what's
infected
going on.
recently? Right. What's
Yeah.
the deal? And so, yeah, there's this butterfly conspiracy. They're in people's brains, high levels of government. You know, kind of Harcourt says it's kind of like a deep state. You know, and so they're kind of playing that angle of like there's
Right.
actually aliens in the government, you know.
Well, it's funny
infiltrating.
because a lot of crazy, you know, a lot of the really out there conspiracy theories are based on certain elements of truth, where you know you have the deep state and QAnon and that kind of thing, but obviously there is corruption at the highest levels of government and you know the elites and that thing. There are kernels of truth within these conspiracy theories, so it's kind of commenting on that, I think.
It's like a jumping off point, but then to also like you look at John Cena talking about the deep state, and like this guy's an idiot, but then they also turn it on you and like, but there's butterflies in the government.
Right.
It's kind of a deep state. It's
Yeah,
like, damn
but
it.
then even back to the other side of it though, to acknowledge that like, well, this is what I believe, you should too. But when when Vigilante sees his dad's upside down flag, he's like, I don't know what that's about. Yeah, like there are levels to it where he's just like, I just can't even deal with that.
Oh
so.
yeah.
I mean, if you want to get a, you know, probably racist white guy, who better to cast than Robert Patrick? You know, Terminator 2, played
Man,
the LAPD.
have you seen
Well,
this
and
boy?
can I point out real quick, John Cena's first movie, maybe his first acting role, I have no idea. The Marine, who's the bad guy, Robert Patrick.
Oh, nice. They made like 4 of those.
Wow.
Not with John Cena.
Yeah, I
At
think
least
they've got
2 or
I
3.
think it went to the Miz. Yeah.
I did go to the
Yeah,
Miz.
it's the
Miz,
Miz.
Yeah, they just lowered down
Randy
Randy
Orton.
Orton
Proud of
quality.
Yeah, it looks like I'm the Marine now.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
get the Miz in here as a D-lister just for like an
Right. But to
episode.
bring it back to John Cena, I mean, here's the thing with him. I was never a fan of John Cena's wrestling persona. Like, he was always my least favorite during his prime. Like,
Corniest.
yeah, he was like the square, you know, hustle, loyalty,
Hustle,
respect
loyalty,
guy.
respect, dog.
Yeah, I was
Mhm.
never into it, but he's done such a like career flip. Like if you compare him to The Rock, like The Rock is still The Rock. Like he always plays The Rock in most movies. John Cena, he's sort of rejecting his old persona in a certain way and kind of flipping it where he's like sort of becoming a respectable actor where I could see him doing dramas. I could see him doing anything really. Like he has the range to pull it off, I think.
And two, he's flipping that kind of milk toast baby face, you know, literally like it's for the kids to like saying fuck and fucking and killing, and you know, it's being all around bad guy. You know, he didn't turn heel in wrestling, but he's kind of doing heel turn in acting. It allows him to do a lot more than you've ever seen him do.
Well, don't forget, the way he started by like rapping about Stephanie McMahon's body, like
the Chain Gang,
like back in the day, yeah.
But
never forget the Chain Gang. He became the ultimate like face for a while because the kids loved him and everything, and he was just the square.
Well,
moved a lot of wristbands.
And
that guy.
Thumbs up, most accomplished wishes in Make-A-Wish history by margin. Where if we started now, you would never be able to catch up to him. Like it's like huge.
No, he always seemed like a great guy for what he did out of the ring or off the screen. Being with his kid fans and everything, you got to respect that.
Mm-hmm.
But just the way he, again, not to go back to the way he uses his body, though. I mean, when I look at him, it's almost like the Uncanny Valley because he's so like muscular. He looks like an action figure, a real life action figure.
It's Chip Hazard.
So I see his face on that body, and I just get that Uncanny Valley feeling sometimes. But he just knows how to use it. Like when he's just dancing in his tighty whities, like
yes,
there's a lot of actors that would not be willing to do that. That's like putting a lot out there.
All the confidence in the world. 3 things, real quick, I want to say. In the first episode, when he's in the hospital and he's in that gown and you still see his butt or whatever, and the doctor says to him, "Don't lift your left arm. Your shoulder is destroyed. You can't do that for a couple days or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
You don't think, as a fucking wrestler, he's heard that 1,000 fucking times in his life, that all those scars on his body are probably fucking practical?
Yeah, that's very true too.
And from surgeries that he's probably had on his shoulders for similar injuries.
10 years down the line, I would love to see him do like a Mickey Rourke the wrestler type movie. Like I think he would crush it. I would be so into that. Get Batista in there as a supporting actor. Have the two of them do a serious drama together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you guys are speaking my language. And it's such a revelation for John Cena and such a deserved triumph. Like, yeah, he almost was Shazam. Like he was really close to landing that role, and it didn't work out for whatever reason. So to have this moment of like, I'm not Shazam, which would have been The Rock versus John Cena. Like at least it's he has this, and this is such a more unique piece and something where he's stepping out of his comfort zone. So good on you, John Cena.
He's much more willing to step out of his comfort zone than The Rock, who's just made the same movie like 5 times.
The same character. He's a family man. Right.
It's probably like the 9 millionth time I've told this story. But Colin, do you remember the MTV Movie Awards from like 2014, where him and Kevin Hart, who I think they just made that movie where it's like, I'm The Rock, but I was fat as a kid, and like that's
Central
the whole story.
Intelligence.
Central Intelligence. Okay, yeah. And then he they do a bit making fun of the MCU, making fun of superheroes, and The Rock just like turns dramatically and goes, "Black Adam is coming."
Oh yeah.
And like no one knows what the fuck that means, so no one cheers. There's no reaction.
No one
like,
claps.
2014.
It's like
when he tried to put Roman Reigns over.
2014 or 2015. Like it was a long.
He was cast in 2012. Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things.
And just to think of like that reaction of like so desperately trying to like, I'm coming. It's gonna happen. 5 years down the fucking line to being John Cena, who shows up at the premiere for the Suicide Squad in costume, and the Peacemaker show's already greenlit.
Yeah.
And like you said, he could have been Shazam. He could have been, you think you want to be like a Superman or something like that. No, he's going to be this obscure character, Peacemaker, and he's going to be in this edgy R-rated TV show. I mean, it's just crazy. It's a crazy choice that really works for him.
And imagine
my only like nerdy comic book thought that I haven't gotten out is Colin, how far are we from a Kite Man series at this point? Like,
yeah, and I am thinking it's got to be the Miz now. So just put him in the final episode. It's the Miz is behind bars, and he's like, "Oh, if you hadn't taken my kite, Peacemaker."
Well, Kite Man is in the
he's in the Harley Quinn show.
Yeah.
If you are digging this story, like if you like Peacemaker, and you're kind of loving this like villain anti-hero type thing. The War of Jokes and Riddles, a Tom King storyline for Batman, where you get the origin story and history behind Kite Man. It is perfect for a show like this. Like it is so crazy that like I feel like there's definitely going to be an announcement that we're getting a Kite Man series or something. I think like this creative team should just transition into that.
Yeah, we need to speak it into existence though. Mike the Miz, greatest actor in wrestling, Kite Man.
Are there any guesses? So James Gunn has been hinting there will be a season 2 of Peacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
He's been hinting that there will be another DCEU show that he is going to be in charge of. Would you want that to be a spin-off of someone we saw on the Suicide Squad, a Bloodsport show, a Ratcatcher 2 show, Polka Dot Man prequel, King Shark the series, or is there a character you guys would die to just have James Gunn touch?
Careful with your wording. I would say King Shark's always fun and stuff too, but I don't know if you do a whole show. I'm thinking just with his style though, I'm not sure of a character, but he needs to get an apprentice stat because this type of work can't just end with him. Like he can't work on every show. So if they're going to spin this off, that creative team, someone needs to step up and be able to. Yeah, he
could be the Jon Favreau. What Jon Favreau is to the Mandalorian, Star Wars stuff right now. He could be that.
Throwing him out.
But do you have a character, Joe, that you think would, like besides Kite Man? Obviously, you said that one arc is really great.
Yeah, I think Kite Man makes the most sense for like this exact type of show. But I will say like the Batgirl movie is going to be an HBO Max movie. Okay. I don't know if you saw behind the scenes footage of, or like shots that leaked online feature a Batman with a Robin, and we know Nightwing is like in rumors that he's going to be appearing at some point. So like, I would love to, fuck it, just do like a Bloodhaven show at this point, and like, that's what I would really want.
Cool.
And don't forget, like there is another DC show coming, like pretty soon. Matt Reeves is producing a show about the Gotham PD, so like this is here to stay, and I think Peacemaker is like the perfect kickoff point. Tonally, because it's like, okay, if this is how wacky it gets and how serious it gets, anything in between is going to fly as well.
They're making another Gotham, like they already made a Gotham show that's basically about the Gotham PD. Like,
so this is it's going to be set in the universe of Robert Pattinson's Batman, and it's going to follow the Gotham PD that we know from that movie. So,
and then we're getting Joker 2. That's a separate universe. So pretty much there's like infinite sandboxes, different tones. It's like, all right, whatever.
DC's just kind of
winging
doing whatever they can and seeing what hits.
If it works, we'll just do more of that. They don't have to be related. We're gonna have 3 Batmans. Yeah. But
Colin, in the craziest casting choice ever, John Hamm at Batmite. That would be my favorite.
John Hamm Batmite.
I was seeing those commercials with John Hamm during football, and I'm like, who would he be? And I was initially like, he could be a good Omni-Man too. Give him a mustache if they ever live action that.
He would be good.
But get that man a superhero suit. You're right, because he's funny too.
Yeah.
Can I throw a little bit? I think we're kind of getting near the end here, but I want to throw a little bit more love quickly on Vigilante, and the actor who plays him. What's the name, Colin?
Freddie Stroma, an interesting sounding guy. German, but British.
Yeah, so Freddie Stroma.
So he has a British accent in real life.
Besides John Cena, he is just killing it. Because we said he just kills everybody. But then when he's like, you need help cleaning up, and he's like putting CDs back. So he's like considerate in some sense, a friend to Peacemaker, but also a complete maniac, like in jail.
Worth saying, Mike, and I'm so glad you threw it back to him. We're on episode 5. Normies, we're so excited to finish this series. We hope you're listening to this, and you're on 6, and you're on 7, and you're coming back for the finale and listening to our dumb theories on it.
Yeah.
That was the first episode where he was the person cast as Vigilante the entire time.
I was reading into that too, Colin.
And he disagreed with James Gunn on the direction of the show and said, I'm out of here.
Huh. Yeah, I was reading that as well, Colin. So a lot of the in the suit stuff is the first actor, which I think they just dubbed over his lines basically.
And then did some green screen stuff and some reshoots. So the John Cena and him stuff in the cars are all reshoots.
Wow, crazy! I didn't know that. Well, I'm glad that the change was made because he's doing an incredible job. Like when Adebayo kind of says, "I don't think he's going to be happy if his dad's alive," and he's like, "I got to go do something." He just throws a trash can in front of the cops and
amazing.
And when he walks down the hallway, no-selling everybody because he's the craziest fucker in there. I'm like, oh my god,
he's a fucking killer. He is clearly on the spectrum. We now know he's a young kid who used to play D&D, is what he's teased as, who got his large penis much later in life, but
Right.
who says, and I don't feel feelings like normal people, so it's okay that Peacemaker bullies me. The performance that he's giving. It's so fucking funny. And like you said, that scene with the Nazis, the confidence to go around and call them out and say, let's say, what's our favorite thing about black culture? For me, it's rock and roll. Do you know you fucking idiot hillbillies wouldn't even have this fucking shit music you have, and to just tear those people down?
He walks
It's
right into
incredible.
and then beats the shit out of him.
To have the best fight scene in a show where John Cena is the lead is pretty fucking outrageous, and he absolutely does.
Yeah. So as much as we've been heaping love on John Cena, I figured Vigilante needed a little more. And Adebayo, too. I mean, everyone's great. Hardcore's great, but Adebayo, again, her relationship with John is also very sweet and kind of conflicting.
Yeah.
Because her mother wants something that she might not want to do.
Right, exactly. She's very conflicted right now. We don't know what she's going to do because she also, she sees a lot of herself, I think, in Peacemaker because they have the family connection, their parent telling them things that they know is wrong, but they're conflicted inside and they have to confront that.
That's a good point.
But that actress that plays Adebayo,
Danielle Brooks,
she was in Orange is the New Black. That's the only thing I've seen her in, and she was kind of a standout character in that. So I think she's a really good actress.
She's got heaps of charisma. Everybody on this cast does, but man, she really brings it too.
Never seen her before. Again, power of the writing. Imagine these situations. We got this last episode where they go to the food factory for the butterflies, right? You get something you never see in a James Bond movie, which is the handler to the secret agent being forced to be on the mission in the moment with them. Get a very funny scene, Rochambeau. Nobody wants to be paired with Vigilante because he's a fucking psychopath. They go their way. But the natural writing is that you have to put Leota with Chris because, again, like Jacob said, they play off each other so incredibly. But for James Gunn to have the stylized violence, over-the-top killing and all that stuff, and to have real reactions to it, you need that anchoring character, POV character, like Jacob said before. You watch something like No Time to Die, the most recent James Bond film, which ends with his love, Madeline Swan, and him, spoilers for that, not big spoilers, but running around and her watching James Bond, her husband, shoot and kill people violently. Shoot them in the head, not over-stylized violence, very natural, real violence, but killing and taking lives. And she is just mute and stone-faced because, whatever, she's the wife of James Bond. That is not an accurate reaction. When Leota is accidentally firing her gun too, when she is making these terrible faces after Peacemaker kills people with a 3-gauge shotgun mercilessly, her reaction to it is a human being who's never fucking killed anything before and doesn't fucking want to because we're the normal people who are surrounded by these idiots with these crazy guns.
Yeah, they're like,
Colin,
we'll let Vigilante hang out too because he's fucking crazy. We need crazy people.
Right.
It's like, I'm just a normal person. Yeah,
one of my favorite scenes in the show, it's silly a lot of time, but then it gets super serious when there's that security guard that comes up, right? And they're like, they have to kill him. And but she doesn't want to, obviously, and she's just like stretching it out, and he's like saying his kids' names and everything. He's like, please don't do this, you don't have to do this, I just want to see my kids again. Like, it gets really real and they have to kill him. It's like, damn. So really good stuff.
It's
Moneypenny doesn't go on the mission. Moneypenny doesn't get to high-five James Bond after he kills a room full of real people with names and children and families and stuff.
Yeah.
What a show, man. I didn't see it coming, and I'm excited to see where it goes next. It very similar in tone to The Boys, I think, in some ways.
Yeah.
And Vigilante's just insane Huey, and I'm here for it.
Oh, real quick, good question before we go to our wrap-up.
Yes.
Would you be Peacemaker if you were a superhero who just had one gadget in their helmet that they had to keep going to and changing that out? Would you be able to put up with that, guys?
One gadget per helmet?
Yeah.
It's an interesting conceit. It does expand on his powers from the movie, but I would not like that.
No.
I think that's funny about the show too is like They don't explain, like, his dad makes all this stuff for them. That's like all this crazy technology. They don't explain how his dad does this, or like how his dad knows how
It's
to
like
do
a
this. Where he gets
multi-dimension
resources.
room.
Yeah,
what
man,
is
that's
that?
the beauty. That's the beauty of this show, though, and I think that's one of the things that makes it so great, and like why it, like that little detail is exactly why I'm so excited for the future of comic book content. Because you can just say that it's a one line. Yeah, my dad makes all this crazy shit. It's a pocket
Right.
dimension.
Yeah, he's got a pocket
That's
dimension
it.
in his house.
He's a racist super scientist who made a pocket dimension.
Yeah.
And think like if he has that, then like you can just imagine what like Lex Luthor has. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to like it. Just he's so fucking good at world building.
Cool.
I think Marvel has done a similar thing too with the the cleanup crew with the Vulture and everything, where they're taking this alien technology and
Damage control. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, and like normal people can get their hands on this crazy alien technology and become a supervillain if they want to.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So yeah, the
Lot of
world building
options
is
for the
incredible.
future.
Like I said, this pocket, this corner that James Gunn has kind of opened the door to, it makes the DC universe just feel better and more fun than it has in a long time. I think that's great.
Well, this is my question: is what do you want to see James Gunn focus on going forward? Like, do you want to see more of this stuff in DC? Do you want to see him do Guardians of the Galaxy 3? We already know that he's doing that, but is he going to go back to the Marvel do more kid-friendly PG type stuff?
I gotta jump just because as a screenwriter, I said this after the Suicide Squad when we were like, and did you guys know there's gonna be a Peacemaker spinoff or whatever? And we were like, oh, that's that stuff.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be so wild to see him go back to an original property and just to come up with something himself? He does these. Now Peacemaker is the third thing made with his new production studio imprint, whose name I cannot remember. But that Brightburn, which was the Superman, evil Superman riff, okay?
Yeah.
And the Belko Experiment, which was, again, a screenplay he kind of just threw out, or maybe his brothers helped him write it or whatever, which was kind of a Hunger
Royale in the
Games
Office.
Battle Royale riff.
Yeah.
I wonder if he feels this pressure to just go, people love the superhero thing. This is really how I can make my bread and butter. If I do want to stretch my wings, I'll take the safest route possible and just throw it to the wolves and just not have to even be a part of it, really. That's kind of cowardly to me. I would love to see him dive
do
into
more. Yeah, I want to see him do more original stuff too. Like compare him to Taika Waititi. He can do stuff in between the superhero stuff he can put out.
Jojo Rabbit, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
He's hitting that level of putting his name on too many things for me, Jacob, but that's a perfect example.
Yeah, so I'd love to see him kind of mix it up and do some more stuff like Slither. Like Slither was so good. I would like to see more stuff like that as well.
Yeah. I want more TV is what I would say. Like I want more miniseries. I want more. I'd like for him to continue on that platform. But ultimately, like, what do I want to do next? Like, whatever the hell he wants to do, because he gave us a Peacemaker show, which is a character I didn't know at all, a year ago. So
I think you can do a lot more with TV, like with series nowadays. Like, it's the era of streaming series. It's not even TV. It's just different streaming services have these original series, and no movies can get made anymore because they're all got to be Marvel or they got to be these blockbusters, but you can get shit done. And even people like, Robert Rodriguez is directing episodes of Book of Boba Fett. Like you can, I've seen a lot more directors going to these series.
But the pitch, Jacob, in those meetings where people go, if you're like, I have an idea, and you're like, what's it about? And you're like, it's about a dad who's drunk. And you're like, that's awesome. That's a movie. And then you go, awesome. The subplot is the son is gay. They go, whoa, that's a lot. Do you want to do an 8 episode? And these people just go, you know what? You're right. That is, it's better money. It's residuals. Let's do it that way. And they stretch these ideas so fucking thin that they just can't back up. And it drives me so fucking crazy.
I think that is for on one side of that coin, you can take more time to tell your stories, or you just stretch a story out and then there's a lot of filler and it's boring. Luckily, at least with Peacemaker, there's density in every episode. There's no filler, no waste, not an ounce of fat on it. You've seen him
obviously
in
this is like a much bigger conversation about episode orders and stuff like that, but Doom Patrol, I think, is 12 or 13 episodes a season. I think season 1 is 15 episodes. Peacemaker is
8, right?
8. Yeah, Book of Boba Fett I think is 6 or 7. Like
Evan or
you know,
something weird. Yeah.
yeah, some of the Marvel shows are 9. Like I think the beauty of the streaming services, it's however long it needs to be.
That's
know?
what Marvel
should be the
seems to be
correct
doing. It's like
answer,
so it's between like 8 and 10, but if they don't need to be 10 episodes, just make 8, you know.
Isn't
But I
Hawkeye
think with the
short, too? Like
flexibility,
6?
with the flexibility of streaming, you can do that though, because you don't have to meet certain demands of like network television. You need so many weeks to fill. You can just drop the whole season. It can be however long you need it to be.
Content will go on as long as it needs to.
Yeah.
It's like, great.
Exactly.
I think
how
that's
it
really
should
where
be.
the future is headed. Is more series is less movies, because that's what people are watching nowadays. Everyone's subscribing to all these different services and just watching TV. Like I'd rather watch 3 episodes of TV than a movie usually.
Yeah, and like no one, unless your name's Spider-Man, you're not going to get anybody to go to a movie theater anytime soon. So put it on the
We'll
TV.
see if Batman has anything to say about it.
We shall see. I don't think he has $1.7 billion to say about it. But
he doesn't have that much.
But we'll see. But I know that our future is in giving you our final thoughts on Peacemaker coming up right after this on Normies Like Us.
He does a superhero landing on this show.
He does.
We're back. We're pulling down our flag. It's about to call it because we're done talking about Peacemaker here. After we give our final thoughts on the jingoistic, fascist, alt-right superhero.
With a heart of gold.
Peacemaker. With a heart of gold, who is a good guy, who just wants to rock out to some of the best bands of all time. Mike, you were saying you like this stuff. I don't know anything about the music on this show, and I'm fucking loving it.
I swear you're wearing your mind reading helmet, because I wanted to bring up at the top of this the needle drops of James Gunn in this. And yeah, a lot of these bands, like the Choir Boys, episode 1, never heard of. Wigwam, never heard of. But when they started talking about Hanoi Rocks, I know Hanoi Rocks. So I was like, okay, I'm at least somewhat in the loop. But James Gunn mentioned, like, I'd just love to see his Spotify, because Guardians has a great soundtrack. This has a great soundtrack. The Suicide Squad has a good soundtrack. And he's like, yeah, this 80s stuff kind of went by the wayside. And I just wanted to kind of highlight some of this stuff that was more obscure, because I think it's really cool and people don't know about it. So I wanted to include that in the show. And it's like, that's pretty rad. But what surprised me was there's a Japanese band in this show. When Judo Master's driving his car, they're a band called Band Maid. They're all dressed as maids. It's an all-girl rock band. And their song is in here, too. And I'm like, I know that band, and I like that band. I'm like, damn, James Gunn, you really do have the deepest cuts, not just with what superheroes you pick. So,
no, James Gunn, very eclectic taste, and I like that he knows different genres, because like you said, there's a lot of hair metal and stuff. I've never been a huge hair metal fan, so I don't know any of these bands. It fits the tone of the show, and obviously that's what the character Peacemaker likes. I like, Guardians of the Galaxy. That's kind of more my thing, the songs in that. But James Gunn is so versatile. Like he kind of curates the songs to match the show, which obviously he should do. But
just a real quick thing I got to interject with, because I heard him say this on Fresh Air when Terry Gross was interviewing him one time, and saying things like, well, with the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack, which, is just, it's gone gold or platinum or whatever, and it's heralded as one of the best soundtracks of all time. A lot of people just ask you, like, it kind of doesn't make sense, though. Where's the Led Zeppelin? Where's the hits of the era? Where's some more Eric Clapton, all this stuff? And he fires back, I think, very thoughtfully and goes, that was a CD made by a mom. I chose mom rock songs. There's Fleetwood Mac. Wow. There's, stuff like that. And you just go, you're not thinking about it thematically. And to anyone who just back to the auteur conversation goes like, more needle drops or whatever.
But it's totally different. Yeah.
The way the music is used is totally different, but the way that it's shown to the character's heart or to their core of Peter Quill was a kid who had one fucking thing and he was obsessed with it. That's it.
Because it reminded him of home in his childhood.
Peacemaker has an entire outlet that he expresses himself in almost every episode that is dance along with music. Yeah. Because I'm sure in his fucking upbringing in Charlton, Missouri, or whatever they're trying to make it be, or Arkansas, or whatever it is, He's fucking, his racist dad probably only let him go to concerts because he thought, oh, I bet a lot of black people don't go to hair metal concerts or whatever.
Yeah.
It's probably the only thing he was fucking allowed to do.
He could put on his headphones in his room for a half hour a day and just not be abused. Yeah, just rock out.
Scream that.
Mm-hmm.
He probably didn't dance in front of his dad, though, or his dad would call him a queer or something like that.
Yes, exactly. It's a hidden outlet.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I love James Gunn's music pulls sometimes. Even like, Steely Dan in the Suicide Squad, Steely Dan, Dirty Work. Great pull, man. Love the Dan,
Yeah.
So James Gunn, keep rocking on.
Yeah. Introducing like the choir boys and all that stuff. Like you would expect Poison and Motley Crue and stuff, but no, he's like, no, we're not
cuts.
doing the easy stuff. Yeah.
He's a real fan.
Because John Cena liked the entire genre. Peacemaker's character liked the genre so much, he even listened to the most obscure small acts, and I think that's pretty cool too.
100%.
And then we have Judo Master. He's a Bandmaid fan, so good for him, and a Hot Cheeto fan. But yeah, final thoughts, I guess. Peacemaker, kick it off, Colin.
Judo Master is so small too. It's
so
such
fun.
a great comedic
Big man.
Rematch, motherfucker. He just starts. Oh, we're doing insults now. This is one of those shows like the Suicide Squad, which unfortunately I restart every time I end an episode of Peacemaker, where I go, well, I gotta at least just like fast forward through this, or at least just like watch the first 30 minutes or something. Mm-hmm. It's just becoming one of those shows that I can just watch over and over. The first 5 that we've got, I've gone through them a couple times, just having them on before I go to bed or just hanging out in the background. And there is just, Mike, you said the cliffhangers. Every time I just go, what is this diary going to be? What's going to happen to Leota? What are the butterflies? Like, that is a thought that truly during my day while I'm working, I will drift off for a couple minutes and go, Joe, do you think it's tied to Blue Beetle in some way? Because those are Charlton Comics characters, and maybe they're quote unquote the Reach, and they're the people who developed the Scarab that he'll get. And then I'll go,
there's Blue Beetle content in development.
But it can't. How tied could it be, though? I don't know. It's a show that just makes me think so much, and not just about how, like Jacob, I really think John Cena deserves an Emmy. I know we're speaking early, but I would love to see just where it goes with him. And I just think
so.
He's a punching bag. I said it when I saw him in the first Suicide Squad, that there just seemed like so much self-hatred there. And the fact that you can make an entire show about a character that does hate himself this much, and you still just want to be like, no, you need to change. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing. Like, to me, he feels like a real person. Like, he's so vulnerable the way he acts. And again, to compare him, I guess, to The Rock, like The Rock never feels like a real, like when he plays a character, I'm like, oh, he's just The Rock playing this character. And I think that's what makes the difference between like a decent actor to a great actor, is that he just embodies this role. And I just forget that he's John Cena, and I think that he's Chris Smith, the Peacemaker.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%.
It's just insane. I never expected him to be this good. I always knew he was a charismatic guy, wrestling and everything, but yeah, he's just crushing it.
Would you guess? Sorry, real quick. I just remembered the best joke too. When they get high in bed and have that 3-way with that chick after cucking that girl in front of, or that guy in front of his girlfriend the whole time during that robbery. pick up these albums. He keeps spilling them out and they keep opening up. But the joke at the end when they're smoking weed in bed and Vigilante says, "You guys are so lucky that got legalized earlier this year. I'd fucking kill both of you."
Yeah.
That is so fucking good.
Yeah,
and by the way, Colin, about Judo Master, I did see something on Twitter where someone like had taken a screenshot of Judo Master and was like, look what they're doing, they're using effects to make him shorter, like this is just perpetuating like Asian stereotypes and stuff. And then the actor that played Judo Master replied and said, dude, like relax, like I'm actually that short. It was just very funny.
That's crazy.
He's so tiny. Oh, you assholes.
But he's got a big presence too, man. When he's talking shit and he's beating the shit out of Peacemaker and Vigilante 2v1, it's like, all right, Judo Master, you really are the master. It takes Economos to take him down, and even that doesn't last long.
Right.
I mean, this show is something that I expected to watch the first episode and then kind of be like, meh, not for me. And maybe like like a year from now, like tear through it once it's all done. But it's been must-watch TV. I'm super here for it. I love the world building, and this is the first like HBO Max original that I think's been like, okay, this is great. Like, this isn't just an HBO show that's also here. This is its own thing. And I can't wait to see the Batgirl, Blue Beetle, like where all of this stuff goes. And I hope James Gunn has his fingers in a lot of it.
Yeah, the Favreau, I think that's a good model. Just keep him kind of as overall
it's really going to
EP
be
on everything. Keep an eye on it.
It's going to come down to a war between Marvel and DC over James Gunn. Like, they're both want him. But
he's
a
much
talented
deserved. Guy. Yeah, I guess, my final thoughts for this is pretty much everything we've already said, but it's, amazing how you could take a show about such a big, strong man and have him be vulnerable and kind of sad. And then look at that, and why is that, and how can he improve? Why does he push people away by being an asshole? Like things like this, his coping mechanisms, those outlets like Colin mentioned with the dancing, that's behind closed doors strictly. But seeing all these sides of this character, the softer side with Eagly, it's a character study. And it would be nothing without the actor doing a good job and the writing, and all that comes together. So John Cena, the writer's direction, it's all here. It's just firing on all cylinders, and can't wait to see where it goes, man. Extremely surprised. Yeah.
You know what? It is an offhand comment, a joke in the last episode, but it really does sum up, like, literally even the whole point of the show. I was called a bully too, or I was bullied too. Oh, you were? Really? Yeah. Why everybody calling me a bully all the time? And, that the defensiveness, the outlashing, the anger. I mean, that's just what it is. But again, this is just something that we've never seen before, and good on James Gunn to be able to tap into and say, there's something weird going on in this world right now, and I'm kind of terrified by it. Maybe we should talk about it.
Mm-hmm. It's also the weird Breakfast Club. I'm sorry, the jock who his dad's a jerk to him. It's like, oh, there's a softer side. Like you never understand, truly what other people are going through, but.
Yeah, and I guess for my final thoughts, I'll just say, like you mentioned, I really love the sort of political angles that it's taking, covering similar ground to The Boys, which I also really like. But I really like these superhero shows that are willing to take on real life situations and not just be about escapism or that kind of thing. This cape shit, as they call it these days, like. If you're gonna keep making it, like, this is the way I like it,
Elevate it.
Yeah. Have it say something now,
But I think it's a slam dunk, and I'm here for it. So don't have too much more to add, but A+. Good
I'm
work.
ready to eat so much peace, you guys.
Yeah.
For now, I guess we should peace out, motherfuckers.
Yeah, I'm going to put on my ending podcast helmet and remind all the listeners that they can go to @normies_like_us, give us their Peacemaker thoughts. Hit us up when it ends and just tell us what you thought of the finale and stuff, too. Check back in. We fucking love that. And your thoughts on James Gunn as well. And check out the work Jacob's doing on that YouTube page, baby.
Oh, heck yeah.
All right. We've been your hosts. This is Vigilante.
This is Mike DeBio.
Go-do monster.
This is Jacob Maker.
I make Jacobs.
my favorite D-list supervillain. Bye.
I like the Racketeer. Bye, everybody.